Hit where it hurts. An $83.3 million jury verdict handed down against him in the E. Jean Carroll defamation trial on Friday. And we are days or potentially hours away from a verdict in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case, where Donald Trump may be hit with a verdict as high as $500 million. Now, for Trump to appeal these cases, he will have to post a bond equal to these verdict amounts. And these verdicts could be higher than all of the cash he has on hand combined. We'll break it down. And on the eve of the New York judge reaching his final decision in the civil fraud case, what is Donald Trump doing? Donald Trump is now attacking retired federal judge Barbara Jones, who's been serving as the independent financial monitor in the fraud case. This after her latest report on Friday indicated that the Trump organization has had, during the pendency of the lawsuit, during the pendency of the New York Attorney General case, incomplete disclosures, inconsistent disclosures, and errors just over the past 14 months. Donald Trump is now claiming that this distinguished retired federal judge, Barbara Jones, lacked the competency to be the financial monitor, and she's being greedy and wants to remain the financial monitor. That's why Trump's claiming she prepared that report, and Trump saying to Justice Engoron, who he's been attacking relentlessly, that Engoron should now fire retired federal judge Barbara Jones. That's where we are with the Trump organization cases. Donald Trump was out this weekend in Vegas giving a speech where he has made the centerpiece of his 2024 campaign the following. He purportedly passed a cognitive test given to patients with serious brain damage. That's Donald Trump's 2024 campaign. Trump also continued to attack the bipartisan, let me repeat that again, bipartisan border deal. Since Donald Trump wants to continue to whine about the border during the election and do nothing about it. He's been posting about it today as well, saying, we don't need a deal. We need nothing at all. Totally pathetic. Now, compare that to President Biden over the weekend and even Nikki Haley, both who were hitting Donald Trump hard in South Carolina for Trump being a weak, pathetic, grifter, loser. I guess there is something that Democrats and actual Republicans can agree on. Also, Donald Trump's been making unhinged posts today, trying to take credit for the booming economy and record-breaking stock market. Trump is claiming apparently that because he keeps taking cognitive exams, that's one of the reasons the stock market is doing well right now. Also, Republican leaders and influencers spent the entire day attacking Taylor Swift and her boyfriend, Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce, and the NFL claiming, if you guessed a conspiracy, you're right, but get this one, that Swift and Kelce are in a relationship as part of a Democratic psyop to attack Donald Trump, and they are being propped up by a rigged and woke NFL. Donald Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, is getting in on the action. She posted a meme saying that she is a better role model for women than Taylor Swift. Wow, delusional. Also, MeidasTouch hit a new record high, 2.5 billion with a B views, 2.5 billion views. But more important than that, more important, frankly, than all of that other news I mentioned, Jordy, who's not with us today, had a beautiful baby boy. Congratulations, Jordy, dad. Jordy is a dad, a beautiful beautiful baby. So Jordy's spending time with his newborn. Wow. We're
I,
uncles.
I still can't believe it. When I got the call this weekend, I'm not even going to lie to the Midas Mighty right now. I broke down in tears of happiness when I found out that Jordy had the baby. Sending our love and congratulations to Jordy and his wife. It's been an incredible weekend for us. You know, it's been really, really exciting. And Jordy does not. I see a lot of people saying we need a name. We need a name. Jordy wants to do the official name announcement himself. So we are going to let him have those honors when he decides that he wants to break that news to you. But we can report that the baby is here, and we could not be happier for our younger brother. The first one to have the baby. How does that work? Youngest. How does that work out? Anyways, let's get it. We can talk more about that on patreon.com/MeidasTouch. You can check out the after show there. Man, do you feel like these people are losing it even more, like by the day? It's an exponential losing of their minds. This Taylor Swift thing in particular, which we'll get into in a little bit. I really like these moments that they have because it really exposes the brainworms that they have. And it exposes it to people who may not understand or know who these people even are. And then they're confronted for the first time with a Charlie Kirk tweet or a end wokeness tweet or whatever these accounts are. And they get to see, okay, yeah, these people are clinically insane. These people are off the deep end. And I think that's important because they look at every single thing through the same lens that they look through this Taylor Swift situation is. It's very reflective of their entire thinking. I think it's informative. I think it informs the audience of how they operate. That's why I think it's actually an important topic to cover today.
Because MAGA exists in a world devoid of facts. When we talk about all of these Trump cases, we should not forget that ultimately it's not Jack Smith who's indicting someone, right? It's not Fulton County District Attorney Fawny Willis who's indicting someone. It's not Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg who's indicting someone, right? It's a grand jury. So there have been 4 separate grand juries. These are Donald Trump's peers who have heard the evidence and found probable cause for crimes. Then you go into the civil cases where Donald Trump was adjudicated to be a rapist by a civil jury last May. And they also found him liable for defamation last May. So there was a whole nother federal jury in New York who heard the facts. They were aware that Donald Trump had the opportunity to tell his side of the story, and he ran away and would not testify. They ruled in May. Another jury ruled on Friday. Brett, it seems like a very long time ago, but that E. Jean Carroll verdict was handed down on Friday. We're recording this live on Monday.
When I was putting together the outline today, I was like, we've talked about that already, right? On the show. We've talked about it in a few hot takes, but it's actually our first show since the verdict, but it does feel like it was weeks and weeks and weeks ago.
But these are people who are selected through what's called a voir dire process, selected by plaintiffs' lawyers and selected by the defendants' lawyers, Trump's lawyers, who will be impartial, and they hear the facts. They observe Donald Trump's behavior, and they've consistently come out with these outcomes. So for all of Donald Trump's whining about the New York Attorney General civil fraud case, I wish I would have been in front of a jury. I want jury. It wasn't a check the box thing. I want a jury. Really? Because every jury you've been in front of, you've also lost. By the way, including the criminal jury in the other Manhattan District Attorney criminal case that people seem to have forgotten, where the Trump organization was found criminally liable for over a dozen felonies. And the Trump CFO, Alan Weisselberg, served hard time at Rikers Island after pleading guilty to tax fraud. Well, that happened in front of a jury. And so once again, on Friday, a jury of Donald Trump's peers ordered him to pay $83.3 million to E. Jean Carroll for his defamation. Now, I've done a lot of trials. I've been to a lot of trials. I've never seen a trial where the defendant was generating the evidence against him in real time at the trial, where Trump was posting more defamatory statements, and then in real time, E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, Roberta Kaplan, would then take the documents and then show the jury, hey, look what he just posted. Hey, he just posted this. Hey, we got another one right now during the opening, during the closing, throughout the proceeding, generating evidence in the case against him. I just hadn't seen that before. And Alina Habba, on behalf of Donald Trump, their defense was that E. Jean Carroll got what she wanted. She should be happy. Why is she upset? Donald Trump made her famous, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. That's actually what Alina Habba's main argument to the jury was, that throughout her whole life, E. Jean Carroll wanted fame, and she got it. Trump made her famous. Her rapist made her famous, and then he keeps defaming her. Why isn't she thanking this man? That's actually the argument that Alina Habba made. So we can talk about, of course, how incompetent Alina Habba is, how she didn't know how to introduce evidence, establish a foundation. She didn't know that you have to pre-mark exhibits. She couldn't know her way around, or didn't know her way around the courtroom at all. But when you remove all of that, if you remove all of the incompetence, the fact that she's never done a federal trial before, that she had no clue what she was doing, how disgusting of a defense was that? And then you would have Donald Trump in the courtroom, saying things under his breath. She's a liar. She's a liar. She's a liar. And he would storm out of the courtroom when he didn't like what was being said by E. Jean Carroll's lawyer. So a jury saw this behavior. And in the closing argument, E. Jean Carroll's lawyer looked at the jury and said, you saw how this man behaved. You saw how he treated you during this process. Think about that. And you saw that even during this case, he kept on defaming her. So what is it going to take to get him to stop? And this $83.3 million verdict, which included $65 million in punitive damages, $18.3 million in compensatory damages, it's like the perfect verdict, because it's going to be so hard to overturn those numbers on appeal. The Supreme Court has held that if punitive damages are 10 times your compensatory damages, they could potentially be reduced as being too high. And there are some New York cases that say after 5 times compensatory damages, courts will scrutinize it. But this is the perfect number, 18.3 million compensatory, right around what the expert said for reputational repair damages. So right on the money there. Then the 65 million in punitive damages. And here's the thing, for Trump to appeal this, he's going to now have to post a bond equal to $83.3 million. Otherwise, E. Jean Carroll can start collection activity. It won't stay the collection activity unless he posts this bond. So what did Alina Habba do right before we went live? She sent a letter. There she is right there. She sent a letter attacking federal judge Lewis Kaplan based on some New York Post story, which she called an investigative piece. But in fact, it was just a piece quoting her. The New York Post story that she claims has this evidence which shows that Judge Lewis Kaplan was a mentor to E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, Roberta Kaplan, is a New York Post article where they just got a quote from Alina Habba. And so it's not an investigative piece at all. And she's basically saying that federal judge Lewis Kaplan engaged in impropriety, and she's attacking him in a letter. He almost locked her up before closing arguments because of her behavior. And I'm just waiting for that response by Judge Kaplan to drop any moment now. And now that the jury verdict is done, I think you could even see Judge Kaplan have far more serious penalties. This was the title of the investigative piece that Alina Habba was citing. Trump lawyers will use conflict of interest between Judge Carroll's attorney in appeal of $83.3 million jury verdict. And it quotes Alina Habba as saying, "This is insane." So she's quoting that as an investigative piece, which is just her quote to a Murdoch property as evidence to attack the judge and saying the judge had an unlawful conflict of interest. Think about that.
She's the worst. She is the absolute worst attorney on the planet. For all of her mocking of Taylor Swift, which we'll get to in a little bit, I think if you threw Taylor Swift in the courtroom, Taylor Swift with not a single law class would do a significantly better job than Alina Habba. And the wild thing about Habba is you could tell she thinks she's crushing it, right? Like she walks around with this false sense of bravado and she acts like she is like the greatest lawyer on the planet. She thinks she has these Perry Mason moments in the courtroom when she's not proving anything. She's just irritating everybody in that courtroom. I wish it were quantifiable, and maybe you could speak to this, but how much did it add to that jury verdict every time Donald Trump made a post on Truth Social? How much did it add to that jury verdict every time Donald Trump stood at the defense table and started pounding on the table and yelling at the attorneys? How much did it take every time Alina Habba scolded the jury and started yelling at them saying, "She loved this, E. Jean Carroll. She loves this right here." It's like every kind of false move that you could possibly imagine. Alina Habba took it to the next level. And it's no wonder that Joe Tacopina, I know this wasn't Tacopina's case. It's no wonder, though, Tacopina left the legal team before all of this. He's like, I don't even want to be a part of these amateur attorneys. My joke was that Alina Habba, it's pretty impressive, though. She was able to turn a $5 million judgment in the first case into an $83.3 million judgment in the second E. Jean Carroll trial. You look back at that first E. Jean Carroll trial, you go, oh, Tacopina only got out with $5 million. That's not so bad. $83.3 million. That is a whole lot of money, and it's a lot of money, yes, for Donald Trump. Donald Trump claimed in one of these depositions, it was the New York civil fraud case, right, Ben, that he has around $400 million in cash, $400 million liquid. So if that is to be believed, you have $83.3 million here. If he wants to appeal this case, he has to put that up and more for bond. Then if we get this judgment this week, which could be in the hundreds of millions, likely to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars against Donald Trump, if he wants to appeal that case, that's basically all of his cash, potentially more money than he even has.
Brett, Alina Habba is such a bad lawyer that in the cases that she files where Trump is the plaintiff, she gets judgments against Donald Trump. Right? In the case where she sued Hillary Clinton and dozens of other individuals and she brags about it in the Southern District of Florida, she was sanctioned and Donald Trump was sanctioned nearly $1 million. They were the plaintiffs. They were the ones asking for the money, and they had to pay the defendants damages of about $1 million. And she wasn't done there. She wasn't done there. Then they sued the New York Times in that Mary Trump case, right? He was the plaintiff. She was his lawyer. They sued the New York Times. They ended up owing the New York Times about $400,000 in that case. They were the plaintiffs. The New York Times were the defendant. The New York Times were awarded damages against Donald Trump where they were the ones getting sued. And she's been paid about $3 million from the PAC in her legal fees. So if you add all of this up, she's like cost Donald Trump close to $100 million between these sanctions and these verdicts. And it's going to be close to $1 billion by the time it's going to be close to like $500 million to $1 billion by the time we get the verdict in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case.
And then you got this MAGA fan fiction, right? And where everything is the opposite of reality. So of course, Alina Habba loses the case, $83.3 million judgment. And what do these MAGA influencers go? Unironically, I wish I had Alina Habba as my attorney. Thank God Donald Trump is represented by somebody like Alina Habba. When I saw that, I said, yeah, I agree, actually. Thank God Donald Trump is being represented by Alina Habba. She is the absolute worst attorney on the planet. The worst.
Her post was, "This is far from over," after she got hit with that verdict. "This is far from over. Okay. We are just getting started." Hashtag MAGA, hashtag Trump derangement syndrome.
Self-diagnosis.
It's borderline just like you couldn't write this in a script how corny it is, right? Like after the bad guy gets defeated or the bad person gets defeated, it's like, "This is far from over. We are just getting started."
Just getting started. What, losing? You're just getting started because next week this is what. Okay, so I think she was telling the truth.
Started with what?
We're just getting started losing money because this week we lost 83 million. Next week it might be 350 million, 500 million. We'll see. And so she was just saying we're just getting started at losing hundreds of millions of dollars. I think that's what she was trying to say.
As I always say, MAGA equals fascism, but plus idiocracy. And thankfully, the idiocracy for now has far exceeded their ability to implement their fascist designs, because they've got people like Alina Habba, Giuliani, and Trump, and Boris Epstein, and this whole other MAGA crew. But any moment now, Brett, we could, while we're live, for all we know, it could hit. But I think it'll happen probably tomorrow, so Tuesday, or maybe right before or February, but it happened before February 1st, because Justice Arthur Engoron's really prompted. He promised it before February 1st that you're going to get his order. And we have New York Attorney General Letitia James requesting at least $370 million in damages in the civil fraud case against Donald Trump. When you add pre-judgment interest and penalties at about 9 to 10% per year compounded, that's how I get to that $500 million number, because you have the statute of limitation goes back about 6 years. So I can see it being $500 million. But see, not only do I think when that order hits, is the headline going to be $500 million, or let's just say it's $370 million, because that's a lot of money. You also have these issues that retired federal judge Barbara Jones has identified a lot of other fraudulent conduct or inconsistent statements, erroneous statements, incomplete statements, as she likes to say, regarding the Trump organization, not historically. During the past 14 months, since her appointment in November of 2022, where she's been preparing reports from that date forward, she says, quote, "I have identified certain deficiencies in the financial information that I have reviewed, including disclosures that are either incomplete, present results inconsistently, and or contain errors." And in one footnote, Judge Jones notes a potentially fraudulent loan scheme by Donald Trump. And she suggests that Donald Trump may have falsified disclosures by fabricating the existence of a loan worth $48 million that was purportedly being parked in an entity controlled 100% by Donald Trump called Chicago Unit Acquisitions, LLC. And apparently this Trump entity had a springing loan or bad boy loan with Donald Trump, so claiming that Donald Trump was a bad borrower. So that's why there was a springing loan to begin with. But it turns out that but exactly. They're saying that Donald Trump, as taking a loan from this company, was not a good borrower based on Donald Trump owning Chicago Unit Acquisitions, LLC. But it turns out that this loan never even existed. And so what seems what took place is when Donald Trump sued Deutsche Bank and Fortress after the Chicago skyscraper deal ended in massive litigation, they forgave a huge amount of debt. And Donald Trump claimed he acquired the debt and put it in Chicago unit acquisition so he didn't have to pay income tax on the loan forgiveness, but that never actually happened. The debt was never acquired. It was just forgiven. So it may be, we need more data, another tax avoidance scheme that I think Justice Arthur Engoron is going to want to look into, as will New York Attorney General Letitia James. So in addition to the headline of $370 million to $500 million, look at a very robust monitorship of Judge Barbara Jones or somebody like that, monitoring and having all of these powers to always call out Donald Trump if he engages in any manipulation. So if Trump tries to hide anything, that there can be immediate injunctive relief right before Justice Arthur Engoron to issue orders right away if Trump tries to do anything like that. So that's going to even penalize Donald Trump in many ways as much as the monetary damages. So let's be on the lookout for that. But in terms of justice from these civil cases, I mean, we're right where we thought we were going to be by February 1, and what we've been telling everybody, just wait, February 1. So I hope everybody's at least appreciated that we didn't lead you astray in our updates, and we pretty much predicted almost to the dollar amount where these things were going to net out, Brett.
And of course, Trump took the report of potential financial fraud quite well and was understanding. And no, of course not. Donald Trump lashed out at the court-appointed monitor today. His lawyer sent this totally wacky letter accusing her. Remember, the projection is strong in this one, accusing her of just simply wanting to stick around to make more money, demanding that she be fired. Yeah, because that's going to be the immediate move once she identifies all these problems with your financials during the civil fraud case. They're going to go, oh, you have a problem that she identified that stuff. Oh, you want her fired? Oh, okay, Mr. Trump, sure. You want her fired. I understand. You don't like that.
And he's asking Engoron.
Yeah, he's asking Engoron, who he attacks every single day. And at a certain point, I mean, he's not going to, but he has to realize on some level that antagonizing the jury, antagonizing the judge, probably not the best idea for your own fate. I mean, it just got him completely destroyed in this E. Jean Carroll verdict. It's going to get him destroyed again in this verdict. And this sort of behavior is not going to play well in federal criminal court later this year. He's setting himself up for utter disaster. I mean, he called Barbara Jones self-serving. He said her report was full of hyperbole. It's just so disgusting.
Lacks basic competency. This is one of the most, Brett, and Midas Mighty, one of the most distinguished, independent, retired federal judges in the entire country. One of the most sought after people for financial monitorships. By the way, who Donald Trump was involved in selecting her to be the monitor in this case. She probably has a waiting list for 2 or 3 years of people who want to hire her. She probably makes millions of dollars in a year. Probably doesn't even want this case. It's probably more of a headache for her, but she believes she's doing some sort of civic duty in handling this case for Justice Arthur Engoron. And that is who he's lashing out on and saying she lacks basic competency. When I read that, I was like, whoa, that is the last person.
Yeah, it's offensive. They always go straight to offending the person also. It's not just we disagree, we respectfully disagree. It's attack them on a deeply personal level. And I just don't understand there is no legal strategy. I don't get it.
No, and that's because there's no good lawyers who want to represent him. People have seen that MAGA stands for make attorneys, get attorneys. And one of the things about our judicial system, why it's so important and why MAGA wants to attack it so hard, is that it is a place where evidence and facts matter. It is free as much as possible from the MAGA propaganda that spews incessantly from Fox and these right-wing media channels. Evidence has to be admissible. You have to make deadlines. You have to assert your defenses. You're under penalty of perjury. There are real consequences to your action. And there, it's like kryptonite to MAGA. It's not kryptonite to real Republicans and independents and Democrats, because if you follow the rules, it's kryptonite to criminals. If you follow the rules, you should be on an equal footing, and you can put forward your evidence, and there could be a fight over the evidence and what the law stands for. I've just never seen a situation where you constantly attack every judge, attack the financial monitor, attack the judge's law clerk. They love attacking the law clerks. It is some of the most unhinged and bizarre behavior. And I just think one of the things that the country is seeing right now, though, again, is that this MAGA movement is a movement not of power, of weakness and whiny and complaining. And I think more and more, we've been talking about it now for what, Brett, 2 years here with the Meidas Mighty, this pro-democracy community coalescing around democracy and normalcy. It was why I was really honored, and I hope you all enjoyed it, the conversation I had with Governor Hutchinson, the former Republican governor of Arkansas. And there are some people who may be upset that I did that interview. I don't know if you are or aren't, but I thought it was important to show as an example that we can find areas of agreement. We can have civil discussions in a way that you just can't with MAGA people. And I wanted to lead by example and show that that was possible. And I think it was possible there. And I think we had respectful disagreements. And again, there are areas where I probably vehemently disagree with Governor Hutchinson, but I think we handled it in a respectful way. Let me just show you a quick clip of that interview, but I'll tell everybody, go back and watch that interview if you have the opportunity here. Let's play this clip. Governor, do you think Donald Trump is an actual conservative? Do you think Donald Trump is like an actual Republican in the party that you know?
No. And it's not just about the fact that he's made it about personality over principle, but it's also because his policies are wrong. Whenever you talk about the traditional Republican Party has believed in the concept of free trade, the United States can compete on a global marketplace. He wants to put a ring around of America, a 10% tariff on Canada, on Great Britain, on our allies as they try to sell goods to the United States of America that hurts our consumers. That's not conservative. His spending is not conservative. And then literally his isolationist on the global stage is not in the traditions of the Republican Party. And my concern is that public service, which I've engaged in, is about the public good. He has made it about his personal ego, and that has redefined the Republican Party into the Trump Party. Now, I say that, I hope that we can reverse that this year, that we can win this fight and we can restore integrity and character as a serious element in the Republican Party. Obviously, I tried to make that case running for president of the United States, and I was not successful. But this battle is going to have to continue into the convention. And Nikki Haley is doing a good job of sounding the alarm. I've endorsed her. But there's a great deal at stake because of what you've outlined as challenges in a Donald Trump presidency and his abandonment of true conservative policy.
You heard what he said there, that this is going to go through the convention. Through the convention. And I wonder if Nikki Haley's looking at all of Donald Trump's mounting legal problems, potential bankruptcy, cognitive issues, and saying, I should stick around no matter what here, because he is disintegrating very, very quickly. And I want to share some of those clips with everybody of Trump in Vegas, where mean, he went up there, and I was like, this may be rude. I don't know. When it's Trump, I'm not sure you could be rude. I'm like, this is like, is this like Shamu at SeaWorld? Like, he's like, everybody, I passed the cognitive test. You all can't pass it. 98% of you would fail this cognitive test. And this is part of his speech. He goes around the country praising insurrectionists, talking about a song he made with them, and bragging about passing cognitive tests. And then when he talks about the military, he's like, I spoke with this world leader about our missile system. And then he goes, and I was like, ding, ding, dong, a whoosh, ding, dong, ding, dong, a whoosh, whoosh, ding, ding, whoosh, whoosh. And I'm like watching somebody on stage, and I'm like, yo, this is the least normal thing I've ever like. This is like pinch. Is this real life? Yes. So I want to show you more of that. And once again, I want to wish congratulations to our baby brother Jordy, who is a new dad. Jordy, congratulations. Wow. We'll be right back after our first quick break.
If you're like most people on planet Earth, you enjoy a good cup of coffee. I just found a new product to put in my coffee that has all these awesome benefits called 4Wellness. You have to try it out. This podcast is sponsored by 4Wellness. 4Wellness is a functional food brand with a unique range of snacks and supplements that are designed to help you get the most out of your body and mind. Their best-selling product, The Good Stuff, is a performance coffee supplement that supercharges the natural benefits of your coffee with just one scoop. Enjoy better focus, reduce the caffeine jitters, increase your collagen, and support fat burning with the power of The Good Stuff's 5 key ingredients: L-theanine, collagen, MCT, cinnamon, and Himalayan salt. On top of that, The Good Stuff helps you ditch the bad stuff like sugar, dairy, and artificial creamers. 4Wellness was founded by world-renowned performance coach Dave Phillips, who's worked with some of the world's highest performing athletes because he saw his athletes struggling with their health and in need of a simple, delicious way to get functional ingredients into their daily routines. Now, Dave is bringing his unique insight from the pro sports world to you with 4Wellness. I already talk about coffee enough with my brothers and annoy them by going on and on and on. And guess what? Now I get to do that twice as much by bragging about my 4Wellness every day. It not only tastes great, but it makes me feel great as well. 4Wellness also offers Superfood Focus Bites, a delicious snack that literally tastes like a chocolate brownie, except it's made from nootropics like lion's mane, mushroom, and cacao. It also has amazing benefits like fighting inflammation and supporting brain and gut health. Plus, they offer tart cherry recovery gummies, which help combat muscle soreness, coffee pods, and more amazing products that you could work into your daily routine. And 4Wellness offers a 60-day money-back guarantee, so what do you have to lose? So, if you drink coffee, it's time to give 4Wellness a try. Head to 4wellness.com/Meidas and use code Meidas for 25% off your order. Once again, that's 4wellness.com/MEIDAS for 25% off, and make sure to use my promo code Meidas so they know I sent you.
Are you self-conscious about your smile due to stains? Are your teeth aging you? Popular food and drinks are known to stain teeth. Beverages like coffee, tea, and wine stain them over time. So what can you do to brighten your smile? Well, you should give Smile Actives a try. Smile Actives is safe, effective, easy to use, and will keep you smiling proudly. As you probably already know, I'm a big tea drinker like many people. You may be a coffee drinker, and over time I noticed my teeth lose some of their brightness that I was used to seeing. 97% of Smile Actives users in a clinical trial reported up to 6 shades whiter on average, all within 30 days. Simply add Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel to your regular toothpaste. It's been formulated with polyclean technology to boost stain removal and deliver active whitening ingredients into the teeth's grooves and crannies to get better whitening. Smile Actives makes teeth whitening gel that can simply be added to your toothpaste every time you brush your teeth. So no change in your routine, no extra time, and no more messy strips, trays, or light. People will start commenting on your whiter, brighter smile in just days. Smile Actives is the whitening boost your favorite toothpaste needs to give you the smile you deserve. Here's what you got to do. Visit smileactives.com/Meidas today to receive a special buy one, get one free offer with auto delivery plus free shipping and handling. That's smileactives.com/Meidas. SMILEACTIVES.com/Meidas. MEIDAS. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details. We're back live here, MeidasTouch Podcast. Ben and Brett, once again, congratulations to our baby brother Jordy for his new baby. We can't give the name yet. Jordy wants to do that on his terms.
Very
See a lot
secretive.
of that in the comments. Very secretive, Jordy, but he will release the name on his own terms, and we will figure that out. You know, Brett, when I would go downtown LA, to my office there, there was somebody there, you know, who kind of clearly, you know, had issues, and I mean this in a very serious way. And the individual, I believe, you know, did not have a home, and the person referred to himself as Dr. Alien. And it's just a true story, you know, and Dr. Alien, he would show up, that's what he would refer to himself as. And as you would, you know, he'd be on the corner of where the office was and would kind of just shout out these things over and over again, you know, as you were kind of walking into, you know, the office, and whether it was kind of making sounds and repeating the things, you know, over and over and over again, you know, and it reached a level where it was serious and where we could, you know, offer help, and the health services in LA, you know, weren't great. We would do our best to try to do whatever we can, you know, but, and I mean this like in a serious way, like when you see Donald Trump go through whatever he's kind of going through right now, you know, I'm seeing this over and over. Let me just show you, if we can, a quick clip, Brett, if we've got one right now. Just let's show a clip from the event.
These are not muscle guys here, they're muscle guys up here, right? And they calmly walk to a seat. Ding, 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 ding. They've only got 17 seconds to figure this whole thing out, right? Boom. Okay. Missile launch. Pshing, boom.
Yeah, Brett, that was New Hampshire. And then, Brett, maybe walk us through what was happening in Vegas.
Well, let's hear in Vegas Donald Trump speak about his cognitive exam and telling the crowd, you know what, it actually wasn't that easy.
I said, is it tough? He said, yeah, it's a tough test. The first couple of questions are easy, like they'll have a lion, a giraffe, a whale, and a shark. And they'll say, which one's the lion, okay? And that's all the press covered, the first question. They didn't cover the last question. Multiply 4,733. Multiply times 7. Divide, without paper and pencil, by the way. Divide it by 4. Add up another 37 and a half, 0.5. I remember that. And what's your number? How many people in this room could do it? Not too many. Or they give you 6 names in a row. I took a lot of heat on this. They give you 6 names in a row. At the beginning, sir, I'm going to give you 6 names. Good. They look at them. A chair, a hat, a badge, a necklace, and they vote. Those things. We're going to give you 6 things. And I say, good, what's going on? Can you rename them? So I name them. Then they go back, and if you can do it in order, that's even better. I do them in order. Perfect. Then they come back to you 30 minutes later at the end. Last question. They say, what were those 6 things? That there aren't too many people. And they laughed. Everyone said, oh, that's so easy. There's only about 2% of this room can do it, but I did it. I did it very easily. But I got mocked. They said, oh, that's so easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. Go home and try doing it, okay? Go home.
It's not easy. By the way, Brett, does the mic sound better right now? I was seeing some of the comments before. Is it better?
You are back in sync, and it's all good now.
All right, we fixed that during that clip right there. Do we have another clip of him? That was the first cognitive, the time he talked about it there. Doesn't he talk about it again there as well, Brett?
I mean, nearly the entire time. This is him saying that like it was most of his speech. This is him saying that he couldn't possibly have dementia, and here's why.
I said to him, you know, Ronnie, I'd like to take a cognitive test. I never heard of it before, but whatever it is. I like tests. I've always liked tests. Tests are very interesting. And, you know, I had an uncle. He's the longest serving professor, Dr. John Trump, in the history of MIT. Same genes. We have genes. We're smart people. We're smart people, you know? We're like Mr. Lieutenant Governor, we're like racehorses too. You know, the fast ones produce the fast ones, and the slow ones doesn't work out so well, right? But we're no different in that sense.
Even the ideology there about his views on genetics and racehorses and comparing, is very Nazi-esque, like his view right there. And for him to go up there, I mean, again, this is the centerpiece of his 2024 campaign. I like tests. I like to take the tests, and I'm really smart because I have a family member who's at MIT, and I took the test and I passed the test. I passed the test twice. You couldn't pass the test. You couldn't do it. I did it. 98% of you could not pass the test. I mean, that's his speech. That's what he's doing. And by the way, it would be sad, and I would potentially feel bad. My urge is to feel bad for this, but this is someone who is causing so much harm to our country. And also everybody, all the legacy media seems to normalize it. I'm like, he's up there saying, I take tests. You heard me. I take 2 tests. I'm like, this is some really weird crap, right? This is some strange, dangerous stuff right now.
It's utterly bizarre. And then like he always insults his audience. It's like one of the weird things that he does. And then they applaud. He goes, only 2% of you could pass that test. Only 2% of you could identify an elephant. Go home, try it. I bet you can't do it. He like kind of taunts them and they go, woo!
Easy, and then it gets really hard. Like they don't let you have a pencil. They don't let you even have paper, which they let you have both a pencil and a paper. So he just lies about that. And they ask you, do 50,000 million trillion divided by 14,033.67 to the 8th power. And I did it. And it's like, okay, what are you even talking about? And again, why isn't there just this like threshold before we even get to like complex policy, or not even complex, simple policy? If somebody's up there doing that, stop gaslighting me into trying to believe that has any modicum of normalcy. It is sad, it is pathetic, and it is embarrassing. And not only that, Brett, then you have like the legacy media also that's afraid to report on things that are in these government reports. And then when they report on it, they try to give it like a Biden connection. So you see Donald Trump's behavior there. And Donald Trump also always talks about, it's always projection and confession, right? He's always like, well, the reason that President Biden must be doing good speeches is that he's jacked up on drugs. He's got all this drugs that they're injecting into him. That must be what's taking place. He's always being injected with drugs. That's why he's so strong. Like, first off, why is Trump talking about that in his speeches? Why is he so obsessed with that? But we did a whole video on this, how the Trump White House became an actual pill mill. Like, there's nothing that they do that's lawful. They turned the White House into a pill mill, and they were dispensing like really hard drugs in massive quantities in the White House. Massive amounts of fentanyl, Versed, Ambien, ketamine, hydrocodone. I mean, look at the list right here. This is a list. This is just one page. This is just a small sample from the Inspector General DOD report.
And Ben, like copious amounts of these drugs, right? Like a large sum. Like you look at the
amounts of drugs, massive quantities.
2,000 pills of Ambien. These are drugs
that are given in operating rooms. Why are they being passed out in the Trump White House to people who shouldn't have access to these things? It violates all protocols. Like, this is not how it would be dispensed even in a hospital or through legitimate pharmacists. And this was all being done at the White House. That's just a small sample that was in the Inspector General report that was just released, called Evaluation of the DOD Internal Controls Related to Patient Eligibility and Pharmaceutical Management within the National Capital Region Executive Medicine Services. And this report basically determined there wasn't a problem anywhere other than in the White House. The Trump White House. And yet the NBC headline said like before Biden, like they couldn't even say like this was happening during the Trump White House. Like, do you remember when there was like trace amounts of cocaine found in the visitor center? The visitor center where tens of thousands of people show up each day or week. That's where they found trace amounts, and Fox made that their story every single day. And you have fentanyl and ketamine and all of this Ambien and Provigil and Versed, all and hard drugs, operating room type drugs that are on this list as well, that are being dished out to Trump White House officials
by the thousands.
The only part that's redacted is who it was ordered by and received by, but it was ordered by a senior military official assigned to the White House, and then who it's received by is redacted here. This type of stuff is not being reported like anywhere else, and where it is, they're not. Just show me what's happening right here, right, Brett? Like, this is some absurd stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to put the Biden administration in a headline like this by NBC is completely egregious and a complete abdication of their journalistic duty. But these are like, it's not just a little bit of drugs. This is a whole lot of drugs, a whole lot of incredibly strong, powerful drugs that we have going on here at the Trump White House. I would love to see the overlap. I know we're not going to be able to. I would love to see the overlap between the Trump officials and these MAGA Republicans who go, there's fentanyl coming across the border. Look at all this fentanyl coming across the border. And the people who were ordering fentanyl from within the White House itself. It almost seems like the White House is a greater source of these drugs than the border is. Like, that's where our concern had to be. The Trump White House, the epicenter of drugs in America, when you look at this report.
It follows every fascist playbook also, though. Literally the playbook. Blitzed, the book by Norman Ohler. Drugs in the Third Reich, how Hitler and all the Nazis were always drugged up on all of these super hard drugs. I mean, the types of stuff they were dispensing at the White House like candy is reserved for operating rooms. I tell everybody, go back and take a look at the hot take I did on it. I spend 18 minutes going through each page of this.
Doesn't it make a little bit of sense to you though, when you're like, oh, they're all on drugs? Like, oh, okay.
Everything makes sense. It all opens it up.
Yeah, you're like, okay, now, like it's a clarity. It's like a lens snapping into focus. You're like, oh, okay, now I understand. And if all you remember, Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who was the White House doctor for Donald Trump, what was his nickname? His nickname was the Candyman. His nickname was the Candyman because he used to dispense drugs to all the staff at the White House. So, like, these are the people who we're dealing with. That's the guy, by the way, who Donald Trump cites as saying, he says, I'm the healthiest person on the planet. He says, I'm healthier than Obama. He says, I live to 150. I'm perfect cognitively, like all these things. These are the people who were running the country. And it would be worse in a second term. Like that's nothing compared to what it would be in a second term.
There's a whole other Inspector General report on Ronnie Jackson's behavior. He was accused of sexual harassment. He was accused of other misconduct as well. There was one woman who talked about how he would show up in the middle of the night and knock on her door when they were traveling abroad, begging to be let into her room. And she thought that was so utterly inappropriate. And you see these patterns repeat itself over and over again. And what we do here at the MeidasTouch Network is like, I'm just reading the report. Like, I'm just sharing with you what is said, and how is this not a front page story that there were massive amounts, morphine, fentanyl, ketamine being dispensed like candy in the Trump White House. I guarantee you, if that was happening with Biden or with Obama, not only it would be impeachment time. Absolutely. And how do I know that? Because they go after him and try to impeach him based on Hunter Biden's struggles with drug addiction, who wasn't even in the White House during the relevant period of time. It has nothing to do with President Biden's policies at all. Anyway, I digress there. But when you watch Donald Trump's behavior on stage, Brett, that was the point I wanted to make. oh, this all makes sense now. That was the point I was looking.
I get it now.
I get what's going on here.
I see what's happening.
Oh, when he goes ding dong, whatever he says. Okay, anyway, here Donald Trump is praising MAGA Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, his coffee boy, for blocking border security. Here, play this clip.
I'd rather have no bill than a bad bill. A bad bill you can't have, and that's what was happening in the House. As you know, the Speaker, who's, by the way, I think he's going to prove to be a very good Speaker. It's tough when you have a very small majority. Very tough. Mike Johnson, Speaker, he just said it's dead on arrival in the House. It's dead on arrival. We want either a strong bill or no bill, and whatever happens, happens. But this is the single greatest threat to our country right now, is the people pouring into our country.
The single greatest threat, but do not pass any bill to address the issue. I would like to keep on whining about this like a loser and complain about it rather than actually take action, because I believe for MAGA Republicans, or actually for Trump, it's a winning issue. I mean, how pathetic.
I'll say this. If they were really being genuine and there was truly, in their words, an invasion, then you'd probably need to do something immediately. It's not something, and you have the Republicans now openly saying this. We're going to wait until the election because we think Trump is going to be president, and we're going to wait for him. We want to hurt President Biden. They don't say President Biden, but they go, we want to hurt Biden. Like, they openly are just admitting that. If this were truly the emergency that they say it is, then they would take action right now. And President Biden has put forth, he's signed on. He said that he would happily sign the bill that the Senate is working on, which is like one of the strongest immigration bills, I think, ever in the history of the country. It's like stuff that Trump was asking for while Trump was in the White House. And you even have Republican senators saying that directly, the ones who actually want to pass this thing. And yet you have President Biden calling their bluff here on the border. And we'll get into some of the details on that in a bit. And what do? They go, absolutely not, because we don't want to give Biden a win. And here is Donald Trump again saying that he does not want the Republicans to pass this bill.
Maybe 8 times that amount. We cannot let this happen to our country. As the leader of our party, there is zero chance I will support this horrible open borders betrayal of America. It's not going to happen. I noticed that, and I'll fight it all the way. I noticed a lot of the senators are trying to say respectfully they're blaming it on me. I said, that's okay. Please blame it on me. Please. Because they were getting ready to pass a very bad bill. And I'll tell you what, a bad bill is, I'd rather have no bill than a bad bill. A bad bill you can't have. And that's what was happening in the House.
By the way, he can put together actual sentences. Still, when you listen to it, it's just kind of gibberish words together. He's not speaking in full sentences, and he's just, everything's like, that's bad, it's bad, do not pass it, that is bad, do not pass the bad bill, it is bad, okay? It is bad, do not do it. And it's like, what do you even talk? Like, there's no detail, there's no, it is so humiliating to watch. And it's just such an odd thing to actually have someone leading the Republican Party who is trying to destroy the country each and every day, who's like inflicting real harm on our country, whether it's the border or supporting Ukraine, because he thinks that it's a winning issue to try to cause us all harm. It's sad, and it needs to be reported that way because that's what he's telling us. He's saying it out loud.
Yeah, and the good thing is, at least finally, that Nikki Haley is fighting back in this madness. And she's saying what we've been saying all along. I mean, I can't believe it took her this long, but thankfully she's at least saying it now, and she has some fight in her, and there's still a few weeks till the South Carolina primary. And it looks like she's genuinely in it to win it. Like, she is throwing some punches. Just recently, she said that Donald Trump is unhinged. She was talking about his temper tantrums. You see this one?
And what happened after that was a sight to see. Because on election night, we were super excited. We had moved 25 points in the 3 weeks leading up to the election. And Donald Trump was totally unhinged. unhinged. He was a bit sensitive, and I think his feelings were hurt, but he threw a temper tantrum out on stage, seriously, threw a total temper tantrum, and was talking about revenge. So after he talked about revenge and had a little something to say about me, that's fine. We raised $1 million online right after he did that. Then the next day, Unhinged again says, for anybody that supports Nikki Haley, you will be barred from MAGA. So we had a little fun with that. We started selling t-shirts that said barred permanently. We sold 10,000 t-shirts. We raised another $1.6 million.
And then Nikki Haley also went on the TV circuit. She was on the Meet the Press. She was also on CNBC, basically making one of the same points that Asa Hutchinson was making, that Donald Trump is not even conservative. Look at his policies.
This is a man that put us $8 trillion in debt in just 4 years. Think about that. This is a man who praised China's President Xi a dozen times after China gave us COVID. This is a man who now wants to go and put 10% tariffs across the board, raising taxes on every single American. Think about that for a second. That's what we're talking about. This is a man who continues to go and talk about himself and distracted with all the other things. But that night in New Hampshire, after the court case, he's never once talked about the American people.
And then you have President Biden also out there in South Carolina hitting the campaign trail, and President Biden also throwing blows at Donald Trump. And one thing that was reported recently is that people within Donald Trump's camp say that Donald Trump has been incredibly rattled by the tone shift of President Biden, because what everybody needs to do who goes against Trump is they need to watch how he behaves in the courtroom. They need to watch what he responds to and what he takes advantage of. And you see with Justice Engoron was a little soft with him at times. And what did Donald Trump do? Interrupted him, went into his tirade, stormed out, did his whole shtick, right? With Kaplan, with federal judge Kaplan in that courtroom, anytime Trump tried to act up, what did Kaplan do? Sit down. Sit down. That's Mr. Trump, not President Trump. He actually put him in his place. And what did Donald Trump do? He shied away. He got up and stormed out at one point, but that was like the most he could do. He did not talk back to the judge. And you need to show that sort of fight, and you need to take it right to him, because it's frankly the only language that Donald Trump understands. And here you have President Biden ripping into Donald Trump, ripping into him for refusing to visit that U.S. cemetery in Paris and calling our fallen soldiers suckers and losers. Watch this.
Well, as Commander-in-Chief, I look at veterans completely differently than Donald Trump. Think about this, especially here in South Carolina, a proud military state. Donald Trump, when he was Commander-in-Chief, refused to visit a cemetery, U.S. cemetery outside of Paris for fallen American soldiers. And he referred to those heroes, and I quote, as suckers and losers. He actually said that. He said that. How dare he say that? How dare he talk about my son and all of us like that? Look, I call them patriots and heroes. The only loser I see is Donald Trump. It makes me angry.
Next, you have President Biden speaking about, you know what? Donald Trump is seeming a little confused up there on the stage. It seems like there's a little something wrong with him.
There are only two presidents in American history who left office with fewer jobs than they took office. Herbert Hoover and, yes, Donald Herbert Hoover Trump. And by the way, have you noticed he's a little confused these days? He apparently can't tell the difference between Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi.
And you see, the word choice that President Biden is using there is deliberate, because we know from that, believe it was a Fox interview a few weeks ago, that Donald Trump said his worst fear is to be compared to Herbert Hoover. And President Biden's been going around making this point like, dude, you're already Herbert Hoover. You're one of two presidents in history who left office with fewer jobs than when you got to office. You are Herbert Hoover. You are Donald Herbert Hoover Trump, or as Ben likes to call him, Pervert Hoover, which is an instant classic nickname. But it's good to see President Biden taking the fight out there on the campaign trail in the state of South Carolina. Ben,
You think Donald Trump debates ever? I truly don't think he's capable of sitting in a debate or standing in a debate format. I think even if he gets the nomination, he'll back out of a debate against President Biden. I don't think he'll be able to actually handle it. And you have to remember, right, that in the 2020 debate, what was the line that people were talking about? Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. And the Americans were horrified, right? Proud Boys, stand back, stand by. That was one of those moments that happened in debate. Right now, Donald Trump goes, ding bong, ding dong, ding. That's how he talks in these speeches. He brags about cognitive tests, and he brags about singing songs with the Proud Boys, who he calls patriots now. He brags about songs with them, which he claims gets more people to listen to them than Taylor Swift songs. Did you hear the anthem I created with the J6ers? And those were some of the most dangerous insurrectionists. He brags about that stuff. That's one of the main lines that he talks about in his speeches, in addition to passing cognitive exams. And so, what is that debate even going to look like if he does it? And I highly doubt. I think he's going to try to claim that, oh, it's fake news, they're going after me, I'm only going to do it if it's Fox or if it's Hannity. I don't think he'll do a debate. I mean, we will see about that. And speaking of Taylor Swift, we have to get into MAGA just freaking out over Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's relationship, and that Kelce's going to the Super Bowl, and MAGA hates the Kansas City Chiefs apparently because of Taylor Swift. And they have these really just unhinged conspiracies that this is all some psychological operation that's being led by Democratic operatives to harm Donald Trump. And at the end of it, I just think that, she gets real crowd sizes. They're intimidated by her. She tells people to vote. And MAGA has this inflated view of themselves, would be an understatement. And so they just keep on hating on Taylor Swift and writing these ridiculous things. I want to talk about that and more. Let's take our last quick break of the day.
This summer, you could spend thousands of dollars on planes, hotels, and tourist traps, or you could spend less money on a beautiful garden that will give you years of pleasure with FastGrowingTrees.com. FastGrowingTrees.com has thousands of easy-to-grow plant, shrub, and tree varieties, expertly curated for your unique climate and needs, from Meyer lemons to evergreens to shade trees and everything in between. No more waiting in long lines and hauling heavy plants around. With FastGrowingTrees.com, you order online, and your plants arrive at your door in just a few days. No green thumb? No problem. Fast Growing Trees plant experts are just a Zoom, chat, or phone call away, always available and eager to help. They can even walk you through your entire garden to help solve problems you're having with plants and trees. Plus, Fast Growing Trees plant experts have specialized degrees and training to help troubleshoot from root to leaf. It's like telehealth for your plants. I love FastGrowingTrees.com because I found the Meyer lemon tree I was looking for, and their plant experts helped me keep it thriving. They can help you too. And with Fast Growing Trees' 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee, you know everything will look great, fresh out of the box. Join almost 2 million happy Fast Growing Trees customers. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com/MeidasTouch now to get 15% off your entire order. Again, that's 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com/MeidasTouch.
We miss you, Jay. But congratulations, Jordy is a dad. But we got to get a good ad read there by Jordy. Also, if you want to support our pro-democracy sponsors, the descriptions and links are below on the YouTube video and on our podcast. Brett, record-breaking economy right now. We've got jobs up, unemployment down, GDP growth reaching record highs. I mean, you've got good metrics right now across the board. Also, the Dow and S&P 500 and NASDAQ hitting records again today. I always love watching Fox and all these right-wing networks have to report on it hitting record highs, and they're like genuinely upset. Like, you watch them angry that the economy is doing well, which is just, again, such a strange thing to see people root against our country. And then, Brett, you predicted this one, that Donald Trump was going to try to take credit for the stock market and try to claim that because of polls. And by the way, he's not winning in a lot of polls anymore. Don't get me wrong. There are some polls which I don't think reflect independent voters, but
they're all over the map.
They're all over the map right now. But he goes, this is the Trump stock market. I mean, just pause right there. We're in 2024. Donald Trump is on stage doing, did you know our weapons go whoosh, 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 swish, ding. And that's what Donald Trump's out there saying. Did you know I like tests? Tests. I like tests. And then he has the audacity to say that the stock market right now is because of him. Because of him right now. What, you singing the anthem with the Proud Boys and singing the J6 choir song? Really? That's what you think? He goes, this is the Trump stock market because my polls against Biden are so good that investors are projecting that I will win, and that will drive the market up. Everything else is terrible. Watch the Middle East, and record-setting inflation has already taken its toll. Make America great again, exclamation. I mean, just a sociopath right here, right? And actually, inflation in the United States of America is lower than any other G7 nation. So in terms of looking at this from an international perspective, President Biden's done a much better job by far than any other country right now in the world getting inflation under control. And then, you can't forget that, Donald Trump was the one who did a deal with the Taliban, right? To release 5,000 Taliban leaders and basically just let them run over the Afghan government to try to set up the Biden administration. And you had Pompeo taking a photo with the leader of the Taliban. I mean, they just have done some of the most destructive things to harm our country, these MAGA Republicans, in service of Vladimir Putin and our enemies. It's just so transparent.
He took us out of the Iran nuclear deal. And, we have all seen everything that's happened since then. Everything he did put America in a worse footing globally. That was one of the main things of the Trump organization. And if we had any semblance of a healthy information environment, a healthy media landscape, if the internet isn't the way it is, which I know that's a whole other ball game, people would be feeling a lot better about a lot of things that are going on right now, because especially when you look at those economic indicators, they're quite strong across the board.
Couldn't agree more with you. All right, Brett, talk to us about this bipartisan border deal. I mean, it's when you talk about a tough border deal, it's almost shockingly tough that this was able to be worked out in the first place. And now that it has been worked out, the Republicans are the one, and MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump saying, don't do this deal. Do not do this deal, even though it's everything that they actually wanted. Brett, go through some of the terms.
Yeah, it's basically as strong as we get. And you see President Biden here essentially calling the Republicans bluff, I guess, if you want to call it that, and saying, you want to do a deal on the border? I've been saying to do a deal on the border. My first day in office, I submitted a bill and the Republicans said they would refuse to vote for it to reform immigration policy. And so first, let me read you the letter that President Biden posted, his message to Congress. He said here, For too long, we all know the border's been broken. It's long past time to fix it. That's why 2 months ago, I instructed my team to begin negotiations with a bipartisan group of senators to seriously and finally address the border crisis. For weeks now, that's what they've done, working around the clock through the holidays and over the weekends. Let's be clear. What's been negotiated would, if passed into law, be the toughest and fairest set of reforms to secure the border we've ever had in our country. It would give me, as president, a new emergency authority to shut down the border when it becomes overwhelmed. And if given that authority, I would use it the day I sign this bill into law. Further, Congress needs to finally provide the funding I requested in October to secure the border. This includes an additional 1,300 Border Patrol agents, 375 immigration judges, 1,600 asylum officers, and over 100 cutting-edge inspection machines to help detect and stop fentanyl at our southwest border. Securing the border through these negotiations is a win for America. For everyone who is demanding tougher border control, this is the way to do it. If you're serious about this border crisis, pass a bipartisan bill and I will sign it. I mean, that is a strong message. And here are some of the components that we know about this bipartisan Senate bill. Aside from the elements that President Biden mentioned in this letter, it would require a mandatory detention of all single adults, a mandatory shutdown of the border once daily migrant encounters hits 5,000. And once the threshold is hit, a new authority is codified into law that requires Border Patrol to immediately remove undocumented immigrants they catch without processing. That means in this case, those people wouldn't even be able to request asylum. This is like a very, very, very tough bill. And that shutdown, it's not like the shutdown goes away the next day. It doesn't lift till the encounters reduced by under 75% of the threshold, and the new removal authority to immediately remove all migrants who don't have valid asylum claims, which will be determined within 6 months rather than the years-long process that we have right now. And so you have this bill, which is essentially as strong as it gets. You have President Biden ready to sign it. You have Republican senators who have worked on this with the Democrats, and you have Republican senators who know that many of these things are a lot of the same things that Donald Trump asked for when Trump was in the White House. And then you have a right-wing ecosystem, and you have people like Speaker Mike Johnson and people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who don't want to do anything bipartisan, even though they have just like a one vote advantage in the House at this point. They just want to watch it all burn down so that they could help Donald Trump. And they don't even make any, like, they don't even try to hide it. You have Senator Langford go on Fox News, right? And what's their question? It's not about like the policy of the bill. It's why would you give President Biden this win in an election year? Because everything that they view is in terms of how are we going to help Donald Trump. Just listen to the way they ask this question, and it just shows you how Fox works.
So why give him this in an election year, the cover of this deal that, you know, critics say is still going to let a lot of people in, but he gets to take a victory lap that he's gotten something done.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not going to let a bunch of people in. It's focused on actually turning people around on it. It is interesting. Republicans 4 months ago would not give funding for Ukraine, for Israel, and for our southern border because we demanded changes in policy. So we actually locked arms together and said, we're not going to give you money for this. We want a change in law. And now it's interesting, a few months later, when we're finally getting to the end, they're like, oh, just kidding. I actually don't want a change in law because it's a presidential election year. We all have an oath to the Constitution, and we have a commitment to say we're going to do whatever we can to be able to secure the border.
So, I mean,
why would you hand Joe Biden a win? What a broken media. What a broken thing to say.
No, it's terrific. And, you know, it's impossible to deal with these Republicans in any serious way when they're not even living like on the same plane of reality as you, and everything's a conspiracy theory, and everything is a zero-sum game, and there's zero room for any sort of compromise. And when you go to this like Taylor Swift situation,
before you do the Taylor Swift one, I just want to give this data already.
Yeah.
There were over 1.3 million border crossings during the last year of the Trump administration pre-COVID, right? So Mike Johnson saying that he won't do a deal on the border unless there are zero. Like, you can't have a serious conversation with that when MAGA Republicans pretend that there were 0 crossings during Trump. There were 1.3 million border crossings during the last year of the Trump administration. Also, it's factually incorrect for Donald Trump to claim he had the most secure border in history. And by the way, this comes from someone named Peter Henline, who's a DeSantis supporter, who's calling Donald Trump out for this, who says it's factually incorrect for Trump to claim he had the most secure border in history when in 2019 under him, there was more illegal immigration than during any one of Obama's 8 years in office. So once again, you have MAGA Republicans creating this fan fiction around the Trump administration, which just simply doesn't exist. And so, Brett, as you talk about Taylor Swift, it's like, how are you supposed to negotiate with people who think this way and that this is their worldview?
It's absolutely insane. And I think this sums up their worldview here with the Taylor Swift situation. And for some context, they're angry at Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs for a couple of reasons, right? Travis Kelce did the unforgivable sin of he endorses Pfizer and the vaccine, and he promotes getting vaccines, right? And they hate the vaccine. So they literally
weird thing that the whole political party, to be a Republican, you have to hate.
You have to be anti-vaccine, and they call him Mr. Pfizer. That's the name that they give him. They go, oh, it's Mr. Pfizer, Mr. Pfizer. He also, I think, maybe had like a Bud Light deal or some sort of Budweiser deal also, which really angered them because they sent a can of beer to a transgender person once, and that still upsets them a year later. I don't know. And Taylor Swift did the unforgivable sin of telling people to vote, and they don't like that very much. They don't want Taylor Swift telling people to vote, right? They want her the same way they say this about other people. They want her to just shut up and sing, to paraphrase what Fox is saying. And I just want to show you how insane that these people's worldview is, because most people don't actually see these people. And Charlie Kirk in particular is somebody who Republican politicians go on a show like every single day. And he hosts one of the more popular festivals, this event called Turning Point USA, that all of the right-wing people, including Donald Trump and many others, attend, give speeches at, hold seminars at. This guy, for all intents and purposes, is one of like the leaders of the Republican Party. And here was him just a month ago talking about this Taylor Swift thing.
Travis Kelce is an op. He's an average football player who happens to have one of the greatest NFL quarterbacks ever. And then you have Taylor Swift, who's also an op, who sells out audit. And I'm supposed to believe that, a love story. I just happened to stumble into Mr. Pfizer, Mr. State Farm, just in time for the 2024 election. I don't believe it.
Mr. Pfizer.
Just in time.
The Pfizer thing is weird.
For the 2024 election?
It's 100%.
Let's bring this in.
It's 100% of 2024 get out the vote operation to go through middle America, to press the MAGA vote, try to win single women, all under a Pfizer's pharmaceutical regime so that we live in a dystopian hellscape. Jack,
all right.
I mean, just weirdos, just weird, just complete and utter weirdos. What planet are these people living in? And Travis Kelce is a two-time Super Bowl champion. He's one of the best players in the league. None of it makes any sense. And they are so jealous of her success because they themselves have this malignant narcissism where they think they are more famous than Taylor Swift.
They actually think that.
I'm not being hyperbolic. They actually think that they have more fame and more power, which is why that they are threatened by them. And they think also that the American public at large is constantly thinking about politics. I know the people who watch the show probably think about politics quite a bit. I know the people who are in the Charlie Kirk world probably think about politics a bit. I think most Americans are just going about their days, but in Charlie Kirk's mind, they're going around thinking about Charlie Kirk the whole time. And let me just run through some of these comments quickly because it's really going to get, into their psyche. And I apologize for taking you into their psyche because it's not a pretty place, but I'll show you some examples right here. Here's this MAGA influencer, Drew Hernandez. Ready? Taylor Swift will be politically activated soon by the Democrat Party to further emotionally manipulate millions of American females, predominantly the youth, to raise another generation to commit infanticide and support the party that will save their so-called right to do so. And they get crazier than that. Here is a guy, Mike Crispy. The NFL is totally rigged. It's rigged for the Kansas City Chiefs, Taylor Swift, and Mr. Pfizer, parentheses, Travis Kelce, all to spread, all caps, Democrat propaganda. Calling it now. Casey wins, goes to the Super Bowl. Swift comes out at the halftime show and endorses Joe Biden with Kelsey at midfield. It's all been an op since day one. I want to just walk through that for a second. So I think Usher's doing the halftime show this year. So in this person's mind, Taylor Swift, who I think has to fly from like Japan, going to get there like the night before or the morning of. She's going to interrupt Usher's halftime performance. She's going to run on the stage with Travis Kelce, and she's going to go, I endorse Joe Biden. That's what this guy thinks over here. Okay. Let's check out. They get crazier and crazier. Here is Candace Taylor, who is a Georgia Republican politician. I tried to warn y'all back in October that the influence of Taylor Swift on our youth with witchcraft was demonic, evil, and Luciferian. Of course, Satan wants to now use her to elect Joe back to the White House to destroy what's left of America. No surprise here. This Twitter account or X account called End Wokeness. What's happening with Taylor Swift is not organic and natural. It's an op. We all feel it. We all know it. Insane. I'm going to leave you with this last one because at least it'll make you laugh. Here is a post by Scott Greer, who puts in his profile, Scott Greer, 6'2", IQ 187. Doubtful of all those stats once I read this. He says, to those who might say, and this is not sarcasm, to those who might say, quote, the right needs its own Taylor Swift for young women to look up to, I answer, we already have that. Her name is Lauren Boebert. Ben.
I raise you one Lauren Boebert with one Alina Habba. Her post, we have
and so
Alina Habba's post, someone wrote, who thinks this country needs a lot more women like Alina Habba and a lot less like Taylor Swift, with a photo of Alina Habba and Taylor Swift. And then Alina Habba reposts this on her Instagram with a GIF that says, thank you. And endorses this message that
I think we've got
Alina
plenty.
Habba and Taylor Swift.
I think we've got plenty of horrible lawyers. I don't think we need any more of those. I think Taylor Swift is in fact one of a kind and is, like I said earlier in the show, is probably a better attorney than Alina Habba. Like, throw her in the courtroom cold. I guarantee you she does a much better job than Alina Habba. And one of the things though that happens with this, you have figures like Charlie Kirk who do their podcasts and are big names in this world. Like, they have constantly people like Ted Cruz and all these big kind of Republican politicians on their shows. And then they say the most horrific things, the most misogynistic things, the most racist things. Charlie Kirk the other day said if he gets on a plane and sees a black pilot, that scares him. It makes him not want to be on the plane. And then he has like a mainstream Republican politician appear on a show the next day. Like, this is how his stuff works. But then they said the same thing about women pilots on the show. Yeah, also. Now they moved on to women pilots now. I mean, this is what they're talking about on their shows. And then you have organizations like Fox News that once they want to go after somebody, what do? They target them with just all the most ridiculous smears on the planet. So then you had Fox, running stories. Suddenly Fox caring about the environment, trying to like smear Taylor Swift because she flies on a private jet to her concerts. Yeah, I don't think Taylor Swift flying commercials is really going to work out for her or the airlines. But you have Fox like running segments. Hypocrite Taylor Swift. How dare she? How dare she? And then they ran a segment today where they had a guest on who was begging the viewers on Fox, please do not listen to this woman. Please do not listen to Taylor Swift. Like, I'm not making this up.
She has sent out tweets before supporting Joe Biden, so they're not necessarily barking up the wrong tree here. That could happen.
Yeah, she endorsed him in 2020. She definitely doesn't look wishy-washy, but actually it's funny. You and I, before we started this segment, we both said that we were cheering for the opposite team, the Ravens, to beat out the Chiefs, just because we have had enough of Taylor Swift for now. But here's the facts. Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl, and now there's an online plea circulating that is begging people to become Niners fans for the next 2 weeks, just so it doesn't raise Travis Kelce, a.k.a. Mr. Pfizer's star power, along with, of course, Taylor Swift, because it is so scary. There was a recent poll. 1/5 of Taylor Swift fans said they would back whichever candidate that she endorsed. Just please don't believe everything Taylor Swift says. We're all begging you.
How is that even like a real thing? I mean, just the behavior there is just so embarrassing. Like, I don't even know what I watched there.
And it's this poison, though, that is being injected into millions and millions of Americans every single day. And Fox spent hours today talking about Taylor Swift. And it shows you how threatened they are by her. And Taylor Swift isn't even like it's not like she goes around like preaching politics all the time. Like, she occasionally makes an endorsement and just tells people generically to sign up to vote. Like, it just shows you how petrified they are of her, that they need to take their platform over at Fox and they need to try to target.
It literally said, you know who we need to try to take down?
Yeah.
Taylor Swift. Let's
it's
go.
Like, we need to try to cancel this person.
Taylor Swift and her boyfriend over and over and over again.
It's outrageous. But, in the darkness of this media landscape, one of the things I really sort of want to end on is an example of really good quality journalism. And I want to highlight this work by this local CBS Miami journalist. His name is Jim DeFeedy. And he was interviewing this Maria Elvira Salazar. Hopefully I got that right. And she went on this Miami CBS station, and she tried to take all this credit, like all the Republicans do, for all this money that was pouring into her district for things like the infrastructure law, for things like the Chips and Science Act. And this is how it's done when you're a reporter. This is the way that you need to push back. I want you to watch now this absolute masterclass of holding someone's feet to the fire. You didn't bring anything. You didn't bring it. You didn't bring it. You didn't bring any money. You voted against it. You got caught in a lie, and you can't have it both ways. You've escaped your MAGA bubble. Welcome to reality. We need to see more of that.
It's one of the things, though, about MAGA, and that's why I always describe the movement as being weak, as being losers, as being cowards, because they can't even own it. I'd have much more respect for that MAGA Republican congresswoman right there if she said, "You damn right I voted against it. Screw this area. And I'm going to keep voting against it over and over again because that's where my principles are." I'd be like, whoa, that's pretty outrageous. But at least there would be some honesty there, right? They then just pretend that they don't do the things that they're doing. It's this constant gaslighting over and over again. It's the constant lying. It's the constant propaganda. And that takes us full circle in this episode. It's why Trump always loses when he's in a court of law, because they don't allow in the propaganda there, right? So all he has when he squirms around is what? Attack the law clerk, attack the financial monitor, attack the judge, attack the prosecutor, attack the attorney general, say it's all part of a massive conspiracy. But then when he's in court, what do? They can't pull those stunts that you see right there. And that's just one of the aspects of MAGA. As I said, it's fascism plus idiocracy. But here's the thing. It's pumped with this propaganda machine of people who are attracted to it for all different reasons, money, power, whatever it is, to affirmatively cause harm, to trick you. They invest billions of dollars in MAGA media to try to screw people. And that's why sometimes, when it works, and why I want to be so welcoming to people who are leaving MAGA, is because sometimes some people are a bit defenseless to billions of dollars in propaganda intended to screw them over, intended to deceive them. And there's been this historical effort by Republicans to take away their rights and to take away their education and to make people feel like crap and to make people feel helpless and panicked and to create this hysteria through their propaganda machines, right? And that's why this community right here, this pro-democracy, compassionate, empathetic community that you all created, it's on us, though, right now to try our best to reach out, to do our best to tell the truth. I see countless examples where people have shared MeidasTouch videos with MAGA people and go, you know what? It changed their life. Not at first, but they started watching these videos and they appreciated seeing the data and the facts. And we're not going to get through to all people. I absolutely get that. But it is our mission here in being unapologetically pro-democracy to just talk about democracy, to talk about normalcy and compassion and love, because you just don't see a lot of that out there anymore. And I think that's why this network has grown, where we're now celebrating 2.5 billion with a B views, over 2 million subscribers. Thanks to you. We are so grateful for this community. We are so grateful for your support. We feel so much momentum together right now. We also want to wish our younger brother Jordy congratulations for his new baby boy. We're going to do our after show right now at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. That's patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We'll also be announcing when we'll be holding our exclusive Zoom meeting on our Patreon. We're going to be doing that in the next few days as well. And again, I just want to thank everybody for watching this episode. Share these videos, hit subscribe, let people know about the MeidasTouch Network. Let's keep growing this community together. Brett, take it away.
Congrats, Jordy, and shout out to the Meidas Mighty.
The Meidas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.